Hey everybody, it's your old pal Robert from ThrillRide.com. How you doing? So it is a lovely spring evening here in Southern California, and I recently learned that the grounds of the Television Academy are very close by, just off Lankershim Boulevard here in North Hollywood. And the complex features a gardens right out in front that has statues, busts, and plaques of over 100 honorees of the Television Academy. And I took a look already. There are definitely some famous names here you'll recognize. And yeah, it just felt like a really nice evening to get outside and enjoy some television history here at the Academy grounds. So let's see what's on display. I love the oversized Emmy statue out front. And by the way, I've only held Emmys in my life. Of course, never won one. They're heavy. I've heard the same thing about Oscars. They weigh a bit. The Emmy statuette depicting a winged woman holding an atom was designed by television engineer Louis McManus, who used his wife as the model. The wings represent the muse of art and the atom the electron of science. So right here, in front of the Saban Media Center, looks to be one of our first full statues. And I'm going to see if I can recognize some of these sight unseen. It looks like Johnny Carson, maybe? Let's see, is that right? Yes, Johnny Carson. Each statue, plaque, and bust is supposed to include a QR code, which you can scan to get more information about the honoree. And it looks like this one, the QR code is pretty worn away, so not sure how many of those will actually work. But yes, indeed, this is good old Johnny. And that's a pretty good likeness of him. Da 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 ba 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 da. I don't stay up too late to watch late night talk shows anymore, but yeah, when I was younger, I saw my fair share of Johnny Carson hosted Tonight Show episodes, and man, when he was good, he was the best. And right alongside, walking down the row, we've got a pretty cool trio. You've got Sid Caesar from Your Show of Shows, another comedy giant on the left. Oprah Winfrey, host and producer, in the middle, and James Garner. Yeah. Of course, a movie and television legend. I was a huge fan of the Rockford Files. And if anybody remembers, way back in the day, James Garner was the star of a Western on NBC called Nichols. Only lasted one season. Margot Kidder was the co-star. And my mother was one of the producers. And so when the needed crowd scenes with little kids running around the town, they would employ the sons and daughters of the staff. So I got to be on a few episodes of Nichols. Had no lines, just walking around in the background. But those were fun days, let me tell you. And here's David L. Wolper, producer, on the left, and Red Skelton, performer. A lot of good comedy folk here, and it looks like he is holding a bunch of cards with his characters, maybe? I just remember an old episode of his comedy show where he played a hobo, and he would drink a martuna, which was a martini in a tuna can. It's amazing the things that stick with you from your early youth. All right, so the QR code for David Wolper worked, and it brings up a page describing his background. David Wolper was an American television and film producer responsible for such series and miniseries as Roots, wow, Welcome Back, Kotter, Chico and the Man, The Thornbirds, North and South, and such movies as Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and LA Confidential. Excellent. Oh yeah, a legend indeed. And yet another comedy legend, Jackie Gleason, and he's kind of caught in silhouette, but yeah, that's definitely him, all right. I have vague memories of watching The Honeymooners as a really young child on reruns, but yeah, that kind of predates me a little bit. And here's a bust for Dick Wolf. And I don't think I've seen more than maybe 10 minutes of this writer-producer's work, but I'm very well aware that I can't even imagine the thousands of hours of television he has helped create just throughout the whole Law and Order franchise. Pretty amazing. And then Chuck Lorre, if I'm pronouncing that right, another pretty well-known writer-producer behind 2.5 Men, and I'm certainly aware of kind of the saga of that show. But yeah, he's got a lot of other credits to his name as well. Oh, here's a lovely duo. Alan Alda, performer, and Angela Lansbury, also performers. And yeah, MASH, one of my all-time favorite series of any kind, of all time. And going on a hike to go visit the MASH location site, that was definitely a good time. And good old Angela. I mean, again, not just TV, but movies. And, you know, I just give a quick shout out here for Bedknobs and Broomsticks. There is a Disney film that I just don't think gets nearly enough love. And, man, it's one of my favorites, and she's awesome in it. Not to mention all the other millions of great things she's done. Never watched Murder, She Wrote, but I understand it was a bit of a hit. And here's a really cool trio. Dick Van Dyke gets a full body sculpture, but it is miniature. But I'm glad they're showing him dancing, because that man is all about dancing. And good old Howard Cosell, famous sports announcer, and a terrible imitation of him, but I remember that voice so well from watching many, many hours of Wild World of Sports growing up, and boxing matches, etc. And then Danny Thomas here on the end, also a legendary television performer and comedian. And, you know, I think he may have been one of the first people to actually have a true sequel series, because there was Make Room for Daddy, and then years after, Make Room for Granddaddy, that he started both. And, you know, there's a whole genre now of, like, sequel series, but, yeah, I think that may have been one of the first. You know, Barbara Walters and Tim Conway, also very deeply embedded in the culture. Her for her incredible news journalism and interviews. I remember a time it was just mandatory watching. If you saw the Academy Awards, you watched the Barbara Walters special before the Academy Awards, because that was just part of the whole evening. And good old Tim Conway, so funny. And he was in one of the funniest moments on television ever on the Carol Burnett show. Him and Harvey Korman. I mean, there's just hundreds of them, but yeah, he's he's truly one of a kind. I do love Milton Berle's expression here. Legendary television comic. And then Peter Jennings from the news. I want to say NBC Nightly News with Peter Jennings. I hope I have that right. I haven't watched television broadcast news in decades, but yeah, that sounds familiar. And then here on the end, you've got Merv Griffin, who had a very successful talk show of his own, but also an incredible producer. The amount of television shows he has produced is pretty staggering. Well, before I got close enough to read the plaque, I was pretty sure this was Ed Sullivan, because that pose is a very distinctive pose. You know, with his hand under his chin, his one arm supporting his other elbow. Yeah, I can hear him speaking now. Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles. Also a little bit before my time, but he was so embedded in the culture that I was very aware of who he was growing up. Oh, that's a lovely detail on the benches. They have little sculpted leaves and acorns. Nice. So in this trio, on the right, we've got Tom Brokaw, news journalist extraordinaire. On the left, good old Bob Barker, television host. Probably most well known for hosting The Price is Right, but for a lot of other things. And of course, his absolutely epic Happy Gilmore appearance. And in the middle, here's somebody named Mario Kreutzberger, aka Don Francisco, host, who I am not familiar with. And the QR code works. Mario Kreutzberger, better known by his stage name Don Francisco, is a Chilean television host and popular personality on the Univision network, reaching Spanish-speaking viewers in the United States. He is best known for hosting the former variety shows Sabado Gigante, I've heard of that, and Don Francisco Presenta. Well, there you go. Neat. I'm glad it's not just English-based television here. Sweet. And then right here on the left, you've got Andy Griffith, and certainly an incredible performer. How many famous TV series does he have to his name? I mean, obviously Andy Griffith Show and Matlock come to mind right away, but does anybody remember the show Salvage One? I think it was called. I think it only lasted one season, but he starred as a junkyard owner who decides to build a rocket ship and go into space to retrieve space junk. And yeah, that was a real show. At least I'm pretty sure it was. I remember it as a kid. And here's an executive named David Sarnoff. And then here, oh yeah, an absolute legend. Another one. Rod Serling, writer. I mean, for Planet of the Apes, for Twilight Zone. Utter genius. Utter genius, yeah. So again, not being a huge sports watcher, I'm not as familiar with Al Michaels. I'm definitely aware of him. Pretty interesting. But then here on the left, a Philo T. Farnsworth inventor. I think I know his background, that he is the inventor of television, but let's find out. So sure enough, Philo T. Farnsworth was an American inventor and television pioneer. He made many contributions that were crucial to the early development of the electronic television. He's perhaps best known for his 1927 invention of the first fully functional all-electronic image pickup device, aka a video camera tube, the image dissector, as well as the first fully functional and complete all-electronic television system. How do you like that? And he was the first person to demonstrate such a system to the public. So heading back over to kind of the rear of the main gardens area, got these beautiful palm trees, and you can see they got a lot of room to grow. Plenty of space to add more of these busts. And right here, well, here's a pretty famous pair, Dick Clark and Walt Disney. Yeah, I think everybody knows those names. Well, of course, Walt Disney's QR code is completely gone, and I think the same for Dick Clark. But again, I don't think too many people would need a history lesson when it comes to either of these gentlemen. And look, man, if it wasn't for Walt Disney, I wouldn't have my current career. So, like millions of other people, it's pretty incredible what the Disney studios have wrought. And of course, Dick Clark, man, American Bandstand and New Year's Eve, like right there. Two things that put him into the pop culture pantheon forever and ever. I don't know how many New Year's Rockin' Eves were on in the background at various celebrations I've been to, but it's a lot. And there we go. Shonda Rhimes, writer-producer. She has become such an industry unto herself that I'm now seeing posters for new shows that just says, "From Shondaland." She's a brand. That is a very prolific writer-producer. And of course, Joan Rivers, absolute pioneering legend in comedy. And, she's a polarizing figure, I'm sure. Some people love her, some people hate her. But you got to give her credit, man. She broke through a lot of glass ceilings and allowed women to really rise up the ranks of comedy in her wake. Good old Katie Couric. So there was a period in time when watching the Today Show was just part of my morning routine. Get up, make breakfast, and get a little news and light entertainment. And Jane Pauley and Bryant Gumbel were the first hosts I was a watcher of. And then when Jane left and Katie took over, she was amazing. And of course, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Oh, man, such a crush on her. Between her amazing work on Saturday Night Live and her new work in the Marvel MCU. And you know what? I've never seen Veep. I just didn't have HBO, but everybody I know who's watched it says it's incredible. And someday I'm just going to have to find a way to dive into that show too. There's another quiet spot tucked back in here. And looks like we got, oh yeah, Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Hope, and Carl Reiner. Again, three names I think most people are at least vaguely familiar with, if not intimately. I'm always going to have a soft spot for Bob Hope because He was the commencement speaker at my college graduation, Washington University. That was a fun afternoon. And where do you even start with Carl Reiner? I mean, the weeks, months, years of laughter this man has given me. I can never repay that debt. I mean, just the 2,000-Year-Old Man recordings with Mel Brooks. Unbelievably funny. Unbelievably funny. So Carol Burnett gets a, not life-size, but a full body sculpture in her, I guess her most famous persona from the Carol Burnett show, the cleaning lady. You know, if she has a name, that persona, I'm blanking on it all of a sudden. But here we go, good old Ron Howard. Yeah, director, performer. My goodness. I mean, if just his acting career alone were all he had, he'd be in this garden for sure. But then his directing work, yeah, just incredible. And good old R.E. Ted Turner. Yeah. I mean, he was instrumental in making cable news a thing. So for better, for worse, there you go. Oh, Brandon Tartikoff on the right there. He was, I believe, an NBC executive and kind of a wonderkind, as I recall. Really turned the network around. And I think he also passed far too early, which is kind of sad. But yeah, his QR code is kind of gone. And in the middle here, Diane Carroll. She had a sitcom back in the day when I was a very young kid. And I think one of the first black actors, female actors, to get a television sitcom. Anyway, I love that show. And I had a big crush on her. She was adorable. And then, of course, good old Harvey Korman, also from the Carol Burnett show. And, I mean, the Mel Brooks classics, yeah. Man, this is like a comedy hall of fame in here, too, I tell you. Well, that's interesting. Bob Mackie, the costume designer, is honored here. I bet you he is the only costume designer in this garden so far. And then, of course, you got Michael Landon, our former director, on the left. And, yeah, Little House on the Prairie. Not a show I watched terribly much. I was more of a Waltons guy, but definitely aware, again, of Little House's impact on the cultural landscape. And then good old Dinah Shore. I remember watching her talk show way back in the day. Yeah. And I think she was also a singer and dancer. Yeah, definitely a multi-talented persona as well. Oh, and there on the right, Aaron Spelling. There was a time when he was kind of the Dick Wolf of television. He had multiple series running over the decades. He definitely helped change television landscape. And Bob Schaefer, I think the journalist in the center, I want to say, is he a PBS news personality? Not 100% sure. And then William S. Paley on the left there from CBS. Yeah, another executive who really impacted the evolution of television. Well, of course, the plaque identifies this statue as Jack Benny, but this was another one from quite a few steps back. I knew right away who this was. He's holding his violin, and that is another very signature pose. And that look on his face, that really captures Jack Benny to a T. Another comic who could just bring the house down with a look. Didn't have to say a word. So on this back wall here, there are 3 sections with these kind of square panels, these bas relief panels, if I'm pronouncing that right. And there are a lot of names in here I don't recognize, but on the upper right, there's Jacques-Yves Cousteau, who is honored as a documentarian, and they're sort of in the 3rd row down. Good old Gene Roddenberry, yeah. It's interesting, Charles Kappelman, an executive, he gets a much more dimensional head than some of the others. I wonder why. It looks like these panels are kind of reserved for more behind-the-scenes folks. Got a lot of producers here. Don Pardo, the announcer for Saturday Night Live. James Burrows, Marcy Carsey, and Tom Werner, legendary TV producers. Jack Webb, Lou Wasserman from Universal. Mike Wallace. Well, he was an on-camera personality. And then Barry Diller. Right, nice. So you can see James Burrows on the right next to Don Pardo. he could pass for Sean Connery, right? A little bit, anyway. Well, that's interesting. John Frankenheimer is the honoree on the upper left there. I know him mostly as a film director, but I guess he did a lot of television too. And Lorne Michaels in the middle on top, and Steve Bochco. And then one row down, you got Gary Marshall on the left and Sherwood Schwartz on the right. And boy, between the two of them, a lot of my primetime television viewing they were responsible for. Yeah, look at that. On Gary's plaque, it mentions some of them. Odd Couple, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy, and Sherwood Schwartz. I mean, Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island, man. And James L. Brooks, another writer-producer responsible for so many hours of television that I've watched. And yeah, he gets another pretty dimensional head as compared to some of the others. There's some occasional noise from traffic and airplanes overhead, but it's kind of a nice, quiet little secluded spot. You want to come in here and just chill out for a little bit. So they very wisely chose a few honorees to be represented in more dramatic poses. And right here, Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. And between the two of them, as both performers and behind-the-scenes producers, yeah, really had such an impact on television. It's still being felt today. I mean, keep in mind, Desilu produced Star Trek, the original series. That happened because of these folks right here. And as a comic performer, I mean, who's better, right? I'm trying to figure out exactly what kind of a moment this is supposed to represent. They seem to be having a pretty animated discussion, giving their body language, but is he going to help her stand? I don't know. I'm not sure what the dynamic is here, but it's pretty great to see them together. And Norman Lear, another writer-producer who was responsible for a giant percentage of the television I have watched over my lifetime and will continue to watch. Now, it's funny, I know her as B. Arthur, so to see Beatrice Arthur listed is a little, that threw me off for a second. But yeah, Maude was another classic show, loved that to death. And good old Phil Donahue, not a big talk show watcher, but I remember him. And, of course, his wife, Marlo Thomas, another TV legend. I'm a little surprised I haven't seen her represented here yet. I wonder why Dan Rather is rendered in a different kind of metal, or certainly treated in a different color. Interesting. And you got Art Carney here on the right, Jackie Gleason's amazing partner from The Honeymooners show, and an incredible movie that he had co-starred with Lily Tomlin in called The Late Show. Fantastic. One of her later career movies that he did, and he's brilliant in it. So good. And of course, Betty White. A legend, love her to death. Ah, you are missed, Betty. You were one of a kind. So funny. So down this little side street here, we've got William Frawley and Vivian Vance, who were the other co-star couple of The Honeymooners, and glad to see them sharing some of that glory. And then looks like we got Ernie Kovacs and Earl Hagen, a composer. Now, Kovacs is a comedy performer, again, aware of, but not familiar really that much with his work. Let's see if we can get a readout on Earl Hagen. Earl Hagen was an American composer who created music for movies and television. His best-known TV themes include those for Make Room for Daddy, Dick Van Dyke Show, I Spy, That Girl, and Mod Squad. Wow, okay. I definitely know those tunes. He is also remembered for co-writing and whistling The Fishin' Hole, the melody of the main theme to the Andy Griffith Show. Well, how do you like that? So he's that guy who whistles. Neat. I like this expression here carved into his bass. We work hard, we play fair, and we keep our word. Those are words to live by. So Bill Klage, I'm so sorry, I'm not pronouncing that name right. The first and only lighting designer who was honored here. It's pretty cool. And unfortunately, his QR code and that for David Susskind next to it are both not clear enough to read. But Susskind was reminded, looking at his Wikipedia page, was a talk show host, and he had a show that ran from 1966 until about 1986, just a few months before he died. Pretty interesting. During its close to 3-decade run, Susskind covered many controversial topics of the day, such as race relations, transsexualism, and the Vietnam War. It was the first nationally broadcast television show to feature people speaking up for gay rights. How do you like that? Awesome. And kind of right here in this central courtyard, underneath the trees, is another famous television couple that get pretty amazing piece of prime real estate. Gene Stapleton and Carol O'Connor from All in the Family. Another incredible, groundbreaking television sitcom, courtesy of Norman Lear, and a show that, yeah, my household, we were absolute regular watchers all the way through. Rob Reiner, Sally Struthers, what a cast, and again, groundbreaking. All right, I think that is going to bring this one to a close. So as always, thank you so much for coming along, and I hope you enjoyed a look around a neat little kind of hidden gem here in North Hollywood. Really had fun learning a little bit more about TV history and seeing some artistic interpretations of television legends. And clearly, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of room to grow, so I think this is going to become more and more a destination as the years go by. So thank you again for coming this far. I'm glad you're still listening and watching. And if so, maybe consider giving the video a like and sharing and even subscribing. I'd be very grateful for that. And of course, another way to support the channel is with the purchase of a Thrill Rags t-shirt, a faux vintage dark ride or amusement park logo shirt, available at thrillrags.com. And thank you again to all of you who have already bought t-shirts. So in the meantime, take care, and we will catch you in the next one.